Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Roast and Ceilings podcast. We have with us a guest today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I'm Julie Lane. I reside in Reno, Nevada. I have a platform on Instagram for professional women who have experienced trauma and abuse.
Mhm.
And it's a passion of mine to finally speak up and share my story. And the other part of my life, I'm a university professor and enjoy my work in the field of special education.
So interesting. Me and Isabella, when we found out about your account, we found out your mission. First of all, it's so great that that's the work you're doing because we find after, talking to lots of people, that there is a lack of a space for women to kind of come together and talk about their trauma. Could you maybe talk a bit about why you started this platform? Like, did you also kind of notice this lack?
I think it was a time in my life where I felt comfortable to start to share my story. I've learned to keep my private life private and it doesn't intersect with my professional world. And I've carried a lot of shame from what I've been through. And with both of my parents have passed in the last few years, and I never wanted to speak up about it while they were living because I know that they would have felt incredibly embarrassed because of the abuse from my brother. But it's just time in my life that I'm tired of holding the secret. I'm tired of feeling like I can't really be whole in the world because I'm constantly hiding this secret. And so it's just a point in life where I'm ready to share a unique story. We all have unique stories. Mine is also unique. And to help other professional women who have been successful in their professional careers, but have continued to carry this secret. And I think it's really important for all women to start to speak up because I think what I'm learning more and more is how much this does happen in our lives. And as long as we stay quiet, uh, we're we're not going to allow the world to truly understand how women are treated.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Can I just ask, you put this emphasis on kind of uplifting other professional women who have been through these kind of things before. Can you talk about maybe why it's especially harder as a professional woman, someone who's like in their career to kind of speak out about abuse?
For me personally, it's about shame. I'm a believer that women have still yet to fully find their voice in all aspects of life because of the equality, equity issue that we continue to have to overcome. And I hadn't seen a platform specifically for professional women. There are lots of great platforms out there for people to communicate about the abuse that they've been through. But for me, this was about creating a space that we can journey together to heal. You know, we can spend lots of time on social media blaming other people for what they've done to us, cursing at them, but that doesn't heal us. I mean, there's a place for it, right? But at some point, you got to stop venting and say, I have to take responsibility for my life as an adult, and I can't blame other people for putting me in this situation. What I need to do is take the necessary steps to get the professional help I need and the support I need so that I can move forward in life and leave my past in my past.
Thank you for sharing that. It's
Yeah.
definitely so evident that you have so much wisdom from your own life experience and the work that you've done with women. And I'm wondering, through that work that you've done, what are kind of the biggest barriers you've seen for women taking that first step towards healing? And how can our social services better address these barriers and better break down these barriers?
Well, I think first and foremost is that we have to say that we have them. We have to talk about the abuse. We have to talk about the trauma in our lives. And that piece is so, so hard to do. I mean, I'm almost 64 years old, and here I am coming out for the first time and sharing with out on social media about my story and the significant trauma and abuse I've experienced for just about 60 years since my last relationship ended. And the barrier is I think we still feel we're all alone. It doesn't happen to anybody else. Um, the barrier is feeling ashamed that somehow we've contributed to this. Um, people abusing us or causing trauma in our lives, which we can't take responsibility for because those are their actions. And I think it's the ongoing conversations that I hear or that I read that women are starting to come out. And once we start to come out and talk about this, we then have a community that we can come together within and know that we all belong in that community. We all have experienced significant events in our life. So I'm not sure where social services, I think the work, at least for me, through my therapist, has been phenomenal in what I've been learning. I think more so, social services can only do what they're aware of. And until we are willing to make that step, which is so, so hard to do. I mean, I know that firsthand. I still struggle with things. Um, but we have to take the step and trust someone who's been in our shoes. And I think we need to be better listeners. That's when someone comes to us to tell us a story or tell us their story, that we need to validate, we need to affirm, and we just need to be present. We really don't have to say much. We just need to sit and be there as someone who can identify with the pain and the hurt that someone else has gone through.
I asked like what that could look like too. Like if someone came to us and was like, "Hey, this is something I've been through. This is kind of something I've been struggling with. What are some steps we like the viewers can take to help them out to like help them heal through this?"
Well, I can draw from my upbringing. Um, my parents came from single parent or no parent homes. And so they did the best they could in raising us, but they didn't have role models as parents. My mother was encouraging, she was kind for the most part, supportive, but she really had a hard time not validating how I was feeling about things. And all the way until she passed just 2 years ago, when I tried to explain to her why I don't want to engage with my sister. She knows why I don't want to engage with my brother because of the sexual assaults. But she always questioned why I feel that way. Instead of just saying, wow, that must really hurt. Or, I'm sorry you feel that way. Is there anything I can do to support you? Um, Tell me more about this or that. Um, just even, I can hear what you're saying. I hear you. It can be very simple comments that are like check-in points when you're listening to someone's story that validates without you saying, I can relate to that. I know how you're feeling, because all of us feel things differently. And so my trauma and abuse is um, maybe looked at perceived differently from somebody else whose trauma and abuse might be similar, but their reaction to it was different. Does that make sense? Okay.
Thank you so much for sharing. Um, Previously you also kind of mentioned that it's important to take the steps for yourself to try to heal and just like make living more comfortable for yourself. What are some steps people can therefore like take that? Like, what's maybe the first step to trying to heal, trying to move on?
For me, it's been finding a safe space. And so, um, I live on my own. I have two wonderful little 9-month puppies that are helping me feel emotions again because I've been able to dissociate from them for most of my life. It's finding your happy space, finding that place where you can just be without the threat of toxicity from people around you, and finding the space that I'm in now um, was very, very beneficial. And then continuing to do the hard work through my therapy, which will, for me, will last the rest of my lifetime. I probably won't heal from everything I've been through this at this point in my life, but every time I trust myself, I take even a baby step to implementing something that I've been working on in therapy, I get better. But you've got to have that safe space, or what I call, this is my cave. There are times I've just got to come home and be in my cave because I am an introvert also. And I just need to reflect. I think reflection is a huge, huge piece also. It's not so much reflecting on the actions of others, it's reflecting on myself, how I respond to situations, how checking the facts, is what I'm thinking actually reality? I can sit and say, but everyone in my life has abused me, but that wouldn't be accurate because I have two amazing adult daughters who I'm very close to. I have a very dear friend. My work in the field of special ed has been well received. So we have to check how we're thinking. Some people say that inner child or the inner child adult in us is actually better at gaslighting ourselves because, I'm constantly telling myself, no, you're not worthy, which is not reality. Yes, I am. And so reflection in that safe space, your happy place.
Wonderful. Such a great mindset to work towards. And I'm wondering, um, for women or people just trying to take that first step to that mindset switch and that first step to finding that space within themselves to kind of practice that gratitude, what would you suggest to do to find that?
I can share what has worked for me. And it's interesting because I used to say I would never do this, but I journal. Um, and I journal a lot, and I'm told I'm very good at it. And so that's how I do my reflection, is through journaling. Um, for me too, I enjoy driving, and I do a lot of reprocessing and reflecting on things while I'm driving. That's where my real deep thinking can come into play. People do things different, to have to find their own niche, but that's what has worked for me over the last few years.
For sure. I really love what you mentioned about like finding spaces where you can talk about your trauma with
Mhm.
maybe with people who've gone through it too. So I want to ask about the space that you've created, your own platform. How was that process been like? How has it been to open yourself up and kind of talk to a community of women who have been through the same thing?
Um, well, I'm a Christian, and I feel very uplifted because I really feel this is what I'm supposed to be doing in my later years. I believe God never wastes a hurt. And so through my hurts, I can give back to those who are also hurting. I think I'm rather tech savvy, so I'm real comfortable with the whole social media platform. And I've been on Instagram, but more on a personal level, creating my, so to speak, business plan around Redeem Thyself, which is my Instagram platform. A lot of writing, rewriting, redrafting again. What was the purpose of the platform? And I really wanted to target professional women because I wasn't seeing anything out there. And looking into um, writings on common humanity and self-compassion uh, all came into play in developing, so to speak, the mission for Redeem Thyself. Getting the Instagram account set up and all wasn't a problem, and I'm extremely blessed with my younger daughter being a very gifted graphic artist and web designer, photographer, and so all of my work is hers when it comes to that type of thing. And she gets everything set up on Buffer for me. And so we've got posts running out 3 weeks that are already done in case something comes up. What I don't understand, and I'm still having self-doubts about, is how quickly the platform is growing, because it's only been up for about 5 months. We're getting close to 2,500 followers. And I'm I'm learning ins and outs of how to make sure I'm engaging with my active audience and being that person to listen and to support. So responses that I do to people who comment on a post are to elevate them and to encourage us to continue to talk about how we're healing and not to sound off about those who've hurt us. But this is, things that we're doing to get better.
Mm. I think that's a really great message. And I'm wondering if you could go a little bit into where the name Redeem Myself came from. I was just thinking about that.
Um, that was a lot of soul searching. As a Christian, I only believe Christ can redeem me. But I also know that if I don't learn to forgive myself, then God can't forgive me because that's just part of my faith. And so redeeming myself means I'm letting go of the shame, letting go of things, who knows what I did in teenagehood that would um, make my brother think that what his actions were okay. And so I have to forgive myself and recognize that I didn't deserve any of the abuse from him or from my husbands that later followed as I continued to marry abusive people. Um, and so it's just a sense of forgiveness. I have to forgive myself before I can truly start the healing process.
I know that forgiving yourself for things can be a challenge for a lot of people. So do you have any advice on like how just to get started? How do you start saying like, hey, maybe I should forgive myself for this?
I think for me, it's been more through my therapy work. I've had to do a lot of healing of that inner child that still lives and is still in control sometimes. And so my therapy work has been with eye movement and desensitization and reprocessing, so that EMDR work, and then on Marcia Linehan's work on dialectic behavioral therapy to help that inner child trust the adult self that I'm not going to let her get hurt again. And it's still a work in progress for me. And so I think it's going to be really specific to every person. And I think it's also because of my faith. I lean one way. Um, my background and where I grew up, my culture, and so forth. There are different facets of that forgiveness process.
Like for those of our viewers watching, if they're thinking like, oh, maybe it's time for me to kind of speak up about the trauma I've went through. Maybe it's time for me to share my story. Um, how could they do that? Like, what's something they could do to maybe finally speak up?
Talk to someone they really trust. Um, my dear, dear friend knows my story inside and out. But I had to find, she used to be my boss. And then when she left the school site where I was, we started to develop a friendship. And I learned about what she has struggled with in her life. And there were some similarities. And creating that friendship and trusting her, I started to slowly tell my story and see how she would react to it. Later on, so maybe 5, 6 years ago, I pulled together a group of colleagues who are also friends and a friend or two, and asked them if we could get on a Zoom call together for 2 or 3 times and let me just tell my story. And for me, that was really hard because I felt that if people knew my story, they wouldn't like me anymore. They would abandon me. Um, and none of them did. There was a real sense of empathy, of support, of sadness for everything I've been through in life. But it was really chance taking. It was scary to do that, and it's still scary um, because those almost 2,500 followers that I have now, I only personally know 5 of those people. I don't, because I'm such an introvert, I don't have a big community of friends. I only know those 5 people personally. Everybody else are just people who've popped on and started to follow. And that's making my storytelling a little bit easier too.
That's
Thank you
incredible.
so much,
Mhm.
Julie, for being vulnerable with us today and for sharing your experiences. And I am so completely positive that there are so many listeners today who are just hearing this and have some kind of insight to take away or something that clicked and resonated with them and they're helping. And I think
Mhm.
that's an absolutely beautiful thing. I'm wondering if you have anything else you'd like to say to the young girls today.
Um, I'm here if you want someone to listen. You know, I, my teenage adolescence were not good years, and I didn't have someone to go and talk to. I couldn't talk to my mom. And I know that if you've been through trauma or abuse, I know how that feels. Might be a little bit different from what you're feeling, but get on Instagram, DM me, get on my website, email me. I'm happy to be a listening ear and whatever I can do to help.
Appreciate it so much, and I think everyone has, again, like Isabella said, everyone has something to take away. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Maggie and Isabel, for having me and for reaching out.
Thank you. If you'd like to find Julie's website or social media, just check in the description. Thank you for listening.